Am I the asshole for telling my daughter the truth about why her dad and I divorced? I, 42F, was married to my ex-husband, Daniel, 45M, for almost 20 years. We got together young, started a family soon after, and from the outside, we seemed like the perfect couple. Our daughter, Ava, 15F, had always been incredibly close to both of us. She idolized her dad and saw him as the fun, caring parent, while I was the one setting boundaries, keeping the house in order, and keeping up with her school needs and schedules. I never really resented that. I thought we made a good team. However, about 3 years ago, things started to change. Daniel was distant, spending more and more time at work and rarely participating in family activities. He was taking his phone with him everywhere, acting evasive, and our intimacy had dwindled. Deep down, I had an inkling of what was happening, but I didn't want to believe it. I convinced myself that he was just stressed and overworked. Then, one day, I found the proof. A message popped up on his phone from someone named Aaliyah. It wasn't subtle, and it confirmed everything I feared. They had been involved for nearly a year, and he'd been spending time with her while lying to me about working late or having you guys nights. When I confronted him, he admitted everything. He apologized, saying it had been a mistake and he still loved me. But by that point, I was done. I filed for divorce, packed his things, and tried my best to hold it together for Ava's sake. We didn't tell her the details, only that her dad and I were separating and would both always be there for her. We thought we could keep things civil, and I desperately wanted to avoid dragging her through the hurt and anger that I was feeling. For a while, that approach seemed to work. Ava handled the initial shock of our separation surprisingly well and adjusted to living part-time with me and part-time with her dad. But recently, as Ava has grown older and become more aware of relationships and adulthood, her attitude toward me started to change. She became convinced that I was the reason for the separation and started blaming me for splitting up the family. Daniel never defended me, and though I repeatedly urged him to tell Ava the truth, he just kept dodging it and changing the subject. Then last weekend, we were having an argument. It was one of those fights that spiraled out of control, and she accused me, yet again, of being too uptight, controlling, and pushing dad away. I tried to explain to her that relationships can be complicated, but she was having none of it. She ended the argument with a tearful, "If you weren't so hard to live with, maybe he'd still be here." That hurt deeply, and I felt crushed. I took a deep breath and told her the truth. I explained that her dad had had an affair, and that's what ultimately ended our marriage. I emphasized that we had both tried our best for her sake, but that a betrayal like that was something I couldn't overlook. Ava went silent and just stared at me, her face a mixture of shock, hurt, and confusion. She asked a few questions, mostly about the timing and why he had done it, and I answered as honestly as I could without giving her more details than necessary. I could see the sadness in her eyes. She asked me, why didn't he tell me himself? I said I didn't know, but that I thought he was ashamed and probably didn't want her to think less of him. After our talk, Ava stopped talking to me and retreated to her room. She wasn't mad at me anymore, but her disappointment toward her dad was evident. She didn't even look at him the next time he came to pick her up. Over the following days, I tried to check in on her, asking if she needed to talk or had more questions, but she seemed to withdraw more. It was clear that this truth had hit her hard, and her relationship with her dad was taking the toll. A few days later, Daniel called, furious. Apparently, Ava had confronted him, and he tried to deny everything. When she didn't believe him, he then blamed me, saying I was bitter and twisting the truth to make him look bad. Ava was angry, and I could tell she felt betrayed by his deflection. I told him that I had tried to keep it from her, but that she needed to know why her family had broken apart. He accused me of turning his daughter against him and said I'd crossed a line, but I firmly told him that she deserved honesty. Eventually, she decided she wanted to talk to a therapist, someone who could help her work through these feelings in a healthy way. I was supportive of that and have been attending sessions with her when she wants me to. As for her father, their relationship has yet to fully recover. Though they are slowly rebuilding some form of connection, she'll occasionally stay over at his house, but it's different now. She's cautious, guarded, and takes his words with a grain of salt. I'm still not sure if telling her was the right thing. Part of me regrets it, especially seeing her hurt, but another part of me feels like she had a right to know the truth. Update. After a few more weeks of tense interactions, Ava's relationship with her dad continued to deteriorate. She seemed to be feeling betrayed not only by his actions, but also by the fact that he hadn't come clean when we first separated. It's been hard watching her wrestle with these feelings, and she's been attending therapy consistently. Recently, however, she told me she wanted to sit down with her father and have an honest talk. just the two of them, she felt ready to ask him questions and express her feelings directly. They met up last weekend, and from what Ava shared with me afterward, it was a very emotional conversation. Apparently, her dad finally admitted to the affair but tried to shift some of the blame onto unmet needs and communication issues in our marriage. Ava didn't take kindly to his excuses. She told him that while she could understand that relationships are complicated, there's never a good reason for cheating, and he should have come to me or left the marriage if he was that unhappy. This confrontation seems to have been a turning point for her. Ava told me later that she felt a sense of closure after that talk, but also a kind of sadness that she couldn't fully shake. She confessed she'd always thought of her dad as her rock and her role model, and that knowing he could betray not just me but her trust, too, left her feeling adrift. The session with him helped her see the reality of his flaws, though, and she feels like she can begin to move forward. Since then, Ava has become more at peace and has been spending more time with me, focusing on school, friends, and her hobbies. As for her father, he's still in her life, but in a limited way. She's keeping him at arm's length, and I don't push her to see him more than she wants to. They text occasionally, but the easy closeness they once shared is gone, at least for now. I can't lie, it's been hard on both of us. I've felt my own lingering sadness, not just for what our family has been through but also for Ava's disillusionment. Watching her lose some of her innocence in this way has been one of the most painful parts of all. But I'm proud of how strong she's been through it and that she's handling this with maturity beyond her years. Thank you all once again for helping me navigate this difficult journey. I wish I could go back and protect her from this hurt, but I'm relieved that she now has a clearer picture of what happened and that we're on the road to healing, together.